I didn't apply. 3 years of wanting it. 2 nights imagining the rejection. I pictured the email. I pictured the silence after. I pictured someone else getting it and pretending I was happy for them. By the third day, I felt like I had already failed. So I didn't send it. I sat with that for longer than I want to admit, not grieving something that went wrong, grieving something I never even tried. That's a specific kind of pain. You can't point to the moment it broke, because nothing broke. You just never started. I kept replaying the version where I was brave. The version who pressed submit. The version who didn't overthink it. The version who moved before fear finished talking. I had been standing at the edge of my own life. I was tired of being almost. I told myself I was being wise, realistic, protecting my peace. But that wasn't peace. That was fear dressed up as maturity. And that version of me kept showing up. Not loud, not dramatic. Just cautious, measured, smaller than I actually was. The one who waited too long. The one who rehearsed worst-case scenarios before anything began. The one who called hesitation discernment. And the scary part? People called me thoughtful. Careful, grounded, but inside, I knew the difference. You probably know that version, the one who sits in church. Everyone else actually believes this. I'm just faking it. The one who rereads a message 5 times and still deletes it. The one who checks someone's story and feels behind for the rest of the day. It doesn't feel dramatic. It feels normal. That's how it hides. There was a week I stopped praying. Not because I stopped believing. Because I thought God was tired of me. Tired of the inconsistency. Tired of the spirals. Tired of me promising growth and still feeling stuck. I didn't feel rebellious. I felt defective. And if you've ever felt defective, you know how quiet that is. It doesn't yell. It just lowers your volume. I would open my Bible and close it after 2 verses. Not because the words were wrong. Because I felt like I didn't deserve to be in the room with them. Like I needed to earn the right to show up. Like there was a version of me that was acceptable to God, and a version that needed to wait in the hall. And I was waiting in the hall. There is no hall, but anxiety builds one anyway. Anxiety didn't just take an application. It delayed conversations because I assumed I'd say the wrong thing. It postponed friendships because I assumed I'd be too much. It made me quieter than I actually am. It made me second-guess leadership opportunities I was ready for. It made me watch rooms I could have shaped. And I didn't even notice I was shrinking. I just thought I was being careful. And that shrinking doesn't feel sudden. It feels gradual. Like stepping back 1 inch at a time until you've been living behind your own life. And if I'm honest, part of me liked staying careful. Careful looks mature. But sometimes, careful is just fear with better branding. Because now, you're not fighting panic. You're fighting the version of yourself that feels responsible. I used to think change meant anxiety disappearing. I just got tired. Tired of being the last one to show up to my own story. I finally said it to myself. If I keep waiting to feel ready, I'm going to be waiting forever. So I opened the tab before I could talk myself out of it. The next time I applied for something, I was shaking. My hands were cold. I stared at the submit button for a full minute. My mind was already writing the rejection email. My chest felt tight. My thoughts were loud. You're not ready. Someone else is better. You'll embarrass yourself. And I pressed it anyway. Not confident, not fearless, shaking. I didn't get it. The old script started loading. See, this is who you are. But this time, I didn't collapse into it. I felt the disappointment, and I stayed standing. Anxiety still visited, but it didn't get to introduce me. A few weeks later, I caught the spiral starting again. Same script, same worst-case ending. I was already 10 steps into a failure that hadn't happened, and I heard myself say, "That hasn't happened," out loud. It felt small, but it wasn't. I had been finishing the thought for anxiety, letting it write the ending before reality even began. And for the first time, I didn't finish it. That's when Romans landed differently. Romans says, "There is no condemnation for those in Christ." And I had been condemning myself before anything even happened. If the voice in your head sounds constantly disappointed in you, that voice isn't God. God convicts. He doesn't humiliate. Conviction says, "This needs to grow." Humiliation says, "You are the problem." I remember reading that and realizing I had been treating conviction like a verdict, like every mistake confirmed something broken about me. That wasn't conviction. That was humiliation wearing a spiritual mask. You don't eliminate anxiety. You refuse to build your identity around it. There's a difference. Anxiety can visit. It doesn't get to name you. And some of you have quietly let it name you. The anxious one, the awkward one, the not ready one, the spiritually inconsistent one. No, that's repetition talking, not truth. That version of me, the hesitant, almost version, doesn't get the microphone anymore. Not because I never feel anxious, but because I don't agree with it automatically. I do not agree with it. And notice agreement. What I realized later is that it wasn't complicated. I had been doing 5 things without noticing. I avoided what scared me. I called fear wisdom. I treated shame like conviction. I waited for confidence before obedience, and I let anxiety finish my thoughts for me. Nothing dramatic fixed that. I just started doing the opposite, naming what I avoided, calling fear what it was, letting conviction move me forward instead of backward, acting before I felt ready, and interrupting the script instead of completing it. That's it. That's the shift, the big shift for me. What did anxiety talk you out of? Not the theory, the actual moment. The message you deleted, the opportunity you passed on. The prayer you stopped praying. Tell me the story. Silence is how it survives. And next, we're going deeper, because anxiety doesn't just shrink your courage. It attaches itself to your calling. And if you don't confront that, you'll start believing you're not built for what you're meant to carry. That's what we're talking about next. This is Unsaid No More. I'll see you in the next one.